Hello, everyone. It is August 13th, time for another edition of Wednesday with Walton and Reis. I'm Brian Walton with my partner here, Kyle Reis, and we come to you every week via video form here at thecardinalnation.com and in audio form at the Scoop Sports Network and all your favorite podcast apps. Hello, Kyle.
Hello, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm hanging in there. Just to prep the viewers, I do have an old fashioned made and in my presence. I figured if we were going to talk about our prospect list, I probably needed to have a little extra liquid courage in me this evening.
Okay. I have my Guinness glass, which looks like it has Guinness in it, but really it has iced tea.
Okay.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Uh, All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the awards that the Cardinals announced on Monday, or that the leagues announced in a couple of cases, and then we'll get into the meat of the discussion, which is a couple of very different lists, my top 50 and Kyle's top 50, and we'll talk about some of the areas that were consistent, but we'll spend more time talking about some of the areas where things are different, and we can ask each other why, and we'll look at you with blank faces. All right. So let's start with the awards. A couple of pitchers of the week. Quinn Mathews received the honors in the International League, and that's especially notable because the way AAA baseball is organized, there's only two leagues, and the International League, because of weird geography and other reasons, has 20 teams in it. So, it's a special honor for a guy to be a player of the week in a league with 20 teams. And I don't think there was any doubt. We talked a little bit about it before that, Quinn Mathews has come back from his shoulder problems and however he's reinventing himself to get back to his prior effectiveness. And I think more importantly, maybe for me than the strikeouts was the fact that he only walked one in his 7 innings this past week. What's your take on where Quinn Mathews is right now, Kyle?
A couple different takeaways specifically from that start. One, he was he was in the low 90s for the majority of the start, but by the time he got into the sixth inning, he was hitting 94. And that was awesome. Throwing his fastball, commanding his fastball. You could tell he had a little bit more confidence with it, especially late in the start. That was my first takeaway. My second takeaway was the changeup slider combo is really good. It's really good against righties. And when he's dotting it like he was throughout the zone on whatever night that was last week, it was a thing of beauty. And then I went back and watched the prior start that also, got some attention. And he was doing the same thing there. I watched it live, but then I wanted to go back and watch it with having a little bit of hindsight. And I would say that for all the concerns I have about his fastball and some of his own confidence with his fastball, those two pitches, his changeup, which is amazing, a really great changeup, probably a plus pitch, and a slider, which is above average plus. He can get away with a lot if he's commanding those two pitches. He gets swing and misses with both, and then that allows him, if he can work his way through a couple maybe early inning feel problems, to go to the fastball late. And again, the fastball velocity is huge.
So tell me, Kyle, is it in fact the command of the changeup and the slider that has caused him to drop his walk rate so substantially? Because in the months of June and July, he made 9 starts and he was walking almost a batter per inning. In his last 2 starts total, I think he's only walked two guys. So something is very, very different.
Yeah, and I think he found. I don't know for sure. I didn't do the groundwork. I think he probably found a mechanical glitch in there somewhere. Because again, the command that he had of his fastball as well, specifically in his last start, and then to get to the velocity late in the start, and to kind of change his velocity throughout the game, it felt very intentional to me. Again, I did not zone in on his mechanics as well as I should have. I have not done the groundwork to find out if maybe that's what was causing it. But specifically in his last start, his timing was on. His motion looked fluid. I think that has a lot to do with
All right, so let's get to a question that I've been asked. I'm not as active on X as you are with reader questions, but I also get them on the Cardinal Nation forums where I interact with people there. And it's a combination of being discouraged about Miles Michaelis, but also now this newfound excitement. Quinn Mathews has put together a few very good starts in a row. And so there's this thought, hey, how soon is he going to replace Michaelis? Like next start, next week? How soon is it going to be? Do you think Quinn Mathews has a big enough body of success in AAA that you'd want to put him in the major leagues?
I would say that at this point for me, depending on how the next couple of weeks goes, I would and I understand the 40-man issues, especially going into the offseason, having to add some pitchers. I am on record as saying he would be the 14th pitcher that I would add. I don't know if I'd use him in a rotation spot or in a bullpen spot. And of course, that would be the end of Memphis's season as Memphis's the AAA season goes into September. But yes, I would. Now, again, the rotation of it all, it's look, Miles Michaelis is going to have that spot. He's going to have it until those last couple of weeks, and then anything could happen. Maybe at
Well,
that point,
when he gets to 200 career wins, then he's going to immediately stop pitching. Oh,
that's
wait a
right.
minute, I confused it with somebody else. Never mind.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. It's funny because I'm sure somebody could do a deep dive and run the parallels of what it will be Miles Michaelis's last season and Adam Wainwright's. Although Miles is starting to find velocity and he's pitching really well, but I don't think that go on.
His last four starts, I just want to his last four starts on the road, 12.71 ERA. His last four starts at home, this is prior to Monday against the Rockies. His ERA was 1.66.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're doing something a little different. We're recording on Monday night while he's pitching. He's through 5 without allowing a run to the Rockies, the lowly Rockies, but he's continuing that success. So,
So
I
don't
don't think
pitch him on the road. There you go. Solved.
how hard. Well, there you go. You bring what you do is you bring Mathews up, but you pitch him on all of Michaelis's road starts.
There you go.
No, so I think if Quinn in the next 2 weeks can continue to pitch as well as he's pitched, I do think that he should be the guy that they call upon after the September when the September rosters expand. Of course, more than likely it'll be John King, and they'll keep the guys that they have. But that's what I think. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, Kyle, just to elaborate on a couple of points Kyle touched on, because not everybody may be familiar, and that is obviously there's a finite number of 40-man roster spots. The Cardinals have 3 openings right now, but they're not required to add Quinn Mathews this winter. So by waiting until next spring, they could potentially protect another guy this year from the Rule 5 draft. The other point was on the call-ups in September. The rules now, at the time that they went from 25 to 26-man active rosters, they also went from as many as 40 to now just 28 major leaguers that can be added. So only 2 additional guys in September. So it really cuts back on the opportunity for prospects to get a showing the last month of the year. The other point that Kyle alluded to was Memphis season. They've extended the AAA season basically to run pretty much parallel to the Major League schedule. And the reason for that is with only 28 guys on the Major League roster, you have a rash of injuries in September. If you'd sent all your AAA guys home on Labor Day, who do you have to call up? So it's a matter of keeping ready reserves in AAA. So, all right.
I was going to say which is a real smart move. Last week we talked about the FCL season ending early. Maybe I'm not a big fan of that. Obviously, you have travel reasons why you aren't, but it's nice that they corrected it at the AAA level because this is the right thing to do. That is a change that they should have done years and years ago, having the AAA season extend just a little further into the Major League season. That's all I wanted to add.
That's right. That's right. The other player of the week, Brycen Mautz, and he's coming off the Texas League Pitcher of the Month award in July. So there's no doubt that Brycen Mautz is pitching exceptionally well. We've talked before about if probably anybody's deserving of a shot in AAA, it would be Brycen Mautz. What is Mautz doing differently now? I've heard about this gyro slider. What's he doing that's turned him from a guy who was pretty well thought of 2 years ago, struggled last year at high A, now is dominating Double A in a tough league to pitch, the Texas League?
Yeah, it's funny. All of those lefties at Double A are pitching well. Pete Hansen, Eshawn Henderson, and Brycen Mautz, and they're all doing it just a little bit differently. Well, I'll try not to go to the Hansen and Eshawn of it all. I will stick with Mautz, I promise. And really, it boils down to fastball, cutter, slider, gyro slider. And what you have is you have a fastball that lives in the 93, 94 range, which is up from where it's been in the past. He can get a little bit more juice than that, has really good movement, and it pairs really well with a cutter and a slider. And all 3 pitches, specifically the cutter and the fastball, work against righties. Early in the year, we would see he's basically been dominant all year. That's kind of the unsung thing. And the only damage that was done to him was early on in the season, late in his starts. They were very careful with all of their starting pitchers at the minor league level with their pitch count, right? They get 60 pitches, 80 pitches. And you would see Mautz get tired throughout his start. His velocity would dip. He could be down in the 90, 91 range. Well, he's built up now. He's not having the velocity dip. and he is dominating everyone. Just to go back to Eshawn and Pete Hansen, he's a combo of the two. Pete Hansen doesn't have the velocity, but he has a really great changeup and a really great breaking pitch that keeps people off of him. I think that there's a chance Pete Hansen could be the poor man's Shoto Imanaga. He's not going to. The problem is he's only 89, 90. It's not going to be 91, 92 with the
But he
fastball.
locates his pitches extremely well, right?
That's it. It's all about location and what he does with the stuff. Of course, the changeup isn't as good as Imanaga's splitter, but it's still a great pitch. It's taking huge steps forward. Eshawn has the good slider, decent command, not as good as Pete Hansen's, and a little bit extra juice on his fastball. And Mautz ends up being and Mautz throws a changeup too, but just not as much. He's like a combo of the best parts of Eshawn and Pete Hansen, and that's why for me, he's the one that I would like to see most go to AAA, most get an opportunity. And also, he's the one having the best accumulative season as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. It appears, at least in the 3/4 of a season we have so far, the new player development organization is not super aggressive in moving pitchers. But the reality is, if you look at Mautz and Hansen, drafted in 2023, spent all of 2024 at Palm Beach, spent all 23 at Palm Beach, spent all of 2024 at Peoria, has spent all of 2025 at Springfield, at least so far. So it's not as if it's a change for them, but yet, you have to look at Mautz and say, hey, why isn't he getting a chance instead of some of the journeyman guys they have that are placeholders in the rotation in Memphis? Go ahead.
I would say it feels very old school. You're right.
Yeah, the other thing I just want to say, I want to go back to McGreevy I wanted to go back to Mathews and just compare him to McGreevy. And it may not be fair, but before McGreevy has finally now landed in St. Louis and appears permanently, he made 66 AAA starts. He had the chance to go through the ups and downs of AAA and master that level through a lot of hard work. Quinn Mathews has 19 career starts at AAA, of which 15 are this season. Now, maybe 19 starts are enough. But again, also there's been some, there were some problems early on this season. So, it's not as if now pitcher of the week International League, I get it. Doing well lately, I get it. But it isn't like he's been pounding on the door for weeks and weeks on end like McGreevy did to get his chance. So I'm not quite as aggressive as you are about Mathews, but I certainly get the case that can be made.
Yeah, and I will 100% admit that my desire to see Quinn Mathews at the major league level is all about excitement. Like because like you said, the Cardinals are loaded with minor league journeymen at AAA, and that's boring to me. If Skylar Hales was knocking on the door, and if he didn't need development work, he'd be the one that I would say, man, I hope we get to see him in September. I hope they add him because they're going to have to add him to the 40-man anyway to protect him in the Rule 5 draft.
Right.
But I just look at all the other guys that are options, and like I don't care about John King. Like I love the guy. God bless his soul. Not God rest his soul.
King family, don't take it personally. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're gonna have a whole list at the end of the year, Brian, of families I'm gonna have to send cards to.
Now, I guarantee you, the King family is not listening to us. That was a joke. Maybe Joseph King's family, but anyway.
So yeah, that is. It's just like I would like to see Quinn Mathews. I think he's the type of personality that would fit in a major league clubhouse, and it would just be a cool thing to see.
But come on, Kyle. The guy that everybody wants to see is the player of the month, JJ Wetherholt. Everybody wants to see JJ Wetherholt. That's excitement, right? You don't want him to play shortstop. You don't want him to play second base, probably, unless Brendan Donovan's going to be hurt for a longer period of time. Now that could change matters. Yeah. But Wetherholt just did everything that he could possibly do in his first partial month at AAA. But in all fairness, here in August, 6 for 26, 5 singles and a home run. So, Wetherholt is in his first little period of slowness in AAA, and I just don't think they would be doing him a service to rush him, and I think the word would be rush, to rush him to the major leagues this year.
I'm with you. You took the words right out of my mouth, Brian. I've got nothing else to add to that. I think if you have a player that's this valuable, then you treat him as valuable as he is. Let's get excited. I am just like with Quinn Mathews. I'm excited about this struggle, just like all the struggle with McGreevy, just like when we saw Nolan Gorman have struggle on and off at AA and AAA. Like, this is exciting for me. This is what I wanted to see. I didn't I didn't care those first 2 or 3 weeks when he was in AAA, and he was just hammering 90-mile-an-hour sinkers down the middle of the plate. Spitting at pitches that were inches off the plate. That's not interesting to me. That you don't learn anything about a prospect. We're going to learn about him, and now they've got kind of a book on him. There's Durham pitched him really hard last week, especially with off-speed pitches, and then letting his bat speed up and kind of dominating him in some ways. So I'm anxious to see if the book, sometimes the book gets out on a prospect at AAA and it just stays with the team. It doesn't funnel to the next team. I'm anxious to see how it goes with him because, yeah, again, the positive is he's not striking out a ton. He's not making a fool of himself at the plate. That's one thing that makes JJ Wetherholt so special. As crazy as it sounds, is that he doesn't make mistakes. He's not going to be a mistake. He's not going to go hunting. He's not going to get out of his comfort zone. That's one of the things that makes him so mature and is so impressive. But I want to see what he can do next. What happens next? How does he adjust?
And the place for that to happen is for the next month and a half is in AAA.
Yeah. See what they can do in Memphis.
All right. So the other player, the other pitcher of the month, the pitcher of the month for the system, Braden Davis, who we talked about last time as well. And again, those two choices were very good ones. One that I personally agree with. You can in the article at the Cardinal Nation, you can get the link to Kyle's list, which he posted on X, so you can see his prospect list. Kyle, when you and I pushed Kyle to get a list done for this call because for this podcast because I wanted to in this edition discuss the guys that the Cardinals picked up at the trade deadline and where we'd slot them in. But the other thing that I did in my list, and I think Kyle did too, was last month we didn't really move around guys a lot. We were focused on getting all the draft picks in. This month now there's kind of this latent demand, at least on my list, where I've got some guys moving like 15 or 20 spots, and Kyle did too, because we want to recognize performance, positive or maybe less so. So when you started your most recent list, Kyle, did you start with a clean sheet of paper, or did you take your prior list and say, how do I adjust it? I move this guy up, move this guy down. How do you do it?
Brian, it's usually the latter where I will start. I'll take what I've had. I will look back to the beginning of the season. I'll try to think about the progress that players have made. And I usually make small incremental changes. There might be 3 or 4 guys who I change fully. And I did that here. And then I did it again. And then I did it again. And I kept looking at the list and I just didn't like it. And I don't really have a reason as to why I didn't like it. I think part of it was stats didn't back it up. I think part of it is the eye test didn't back it up. But I hated it. It wasn't even that I didn't like it. I hated it. So I ripped it all up, Brian. I ripped it all up and I said, what I'm going to do, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit, but this list that I chose here, this is part potential, how you would traditionally rank prospects. It is part guys that I just like, guys I like watching, guys I find enjoyment watching. They got a little boost. I've never really done that before, Brian. And with this list this time, I was like, I'm so frustrated with what I'm doing. I'm going to give those guys an extra jolt. They're going to get a little bit more. And then I tried to focus on things that I think are somewhat loud, the outlier. And then from there, I was just like, the guys that I just don't know about, I'm not going to project what other people are saying. Like I think of Chen Wei Lin, right? I don't even know where I have Shen Whelan. I think
you dropped him into the 30s, but you know what? I did too because he's had a terrible year. He's been hurt, and he's kind of at a crossroads now. Is he going to fade away, or is he going to figure it out and step up?
Yeah, and it's funny because every stat nerd will tell you that all of his stuff is wicked. It is so good, but when I watch him, I see a fastball that he can't, even with high velocity, he can't put in the middle of the plate in any part of the zone. Otherwise, it gets
hammered.
Great. Hammered. Thank you. And he doesn't have command of anything else. So sure, you would think this young man, he's got all the potential in the world. It's just a matter of getting the command down. Well, this is a 23-year-old kid. Again, very raw, not as schooled in baseball as other prospects. But I hate watching him pitch. I hate it. It drives me nuts. And I also don't like something.
He told me he doesn't like watching our podcast either, by the way, just so you know, tit for tat.
Yeah, which is funny because he's wrong for not liking our podcast. Which is funny because, I'm sure in 2 years his body will fill out. He'll get better feel for his body and his mechanics, and he'll be one of the best pitching prospects in the Cardinals organization. But right now, anybody
at age 25,
exactly. which will bring us to Cade Winquist, and maybe overselling Cade Winquist a little bit, but uh, like it takes a little bit longer. And to say that he's anything more than like a top 30 prospect in the organization, it's not true. It's not fair. It's not fair to the kids ahead of him, and it's not fair to our audience, Brennan.
There you go. And there you have why Chen Wei Lin dropped down. A couple guys that you moved up pretty aggressively. One we've already talked about, Brycen Mautz. You moved him from your top, basically your top 20, well into your top 10, ahead of Roby and Hintz. And I'm assuming that is one guy's healthy and two guys aren't. Which one is not like the others?
Yeah, and also hypocritical because the guy in front of him is also hurt, Cooper Jerpy.
Yeah,
And
who also got a bump. He moved up again, completely coincidentally. He moved up on your list and my list by being hurt, which which I'm not sure what that says about the rest of the competition.
what are we doing, Brian? How are they letting us do this? So with Jerpy, that was another one where I was trying. Since he got hurt, I've been trying to be as judicial, I guess, about judicial and fair. Like, all right, I'm going to let other guys
Judicial and judicious.
Yes, thank you, dude. That's the word. I'm so stupid. I don't even know the word. But I'm trying to be as judicious, jujitsu about it as I can be. And oh boy, I'm gonna lose it. So, but this time I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that anymore. I love Cooper Jerpy. He is unique. He is one of a kind, and if he's healthy, he's up. He's right up there with Mathews. He's right up there with Doyle. So then I looked, who's after? If I were to put Jerpy here, who's after him? And I still think that if those guys were healthy, I would personally have Jerpy right where he's at. So that
And I'm not there yet. I still have Henson Roby ahead of Jerpy. I didn't really change my top 10 other than take out some of the guys that graduated. But you shook things up a little more. But you dropped Josh Baez down a little bit, and I was kind of surprised to see that.
yeah, I think that was more a product of the guys ahead of him.
Okay.
I also wondered how much of it, like my reacting to him, was excitement driven. I'm just so excited for that kid, and I'm happy for him. And I think that once I got a second to, again, once you start rearranging things and blowing things up, I think it was just taking a second to step away and be like, all right, he's doing really good. He's doing a lot of really great things. Even his flaws kind of work in his advantage. But I think that there's a lot of other guys that are doing some really interesting things above him that are maybe more major league ready and major league capable.
All right. You mentioned Cade Winquist. You brought him from the 30-ish to the 15 or so. Obviously, Winquist has had some good success now at Double A. Why do you like him?
Boy, Brian, I'm going to say something stupid, but this kind of has Ryan Helsley written all over it to me. Like,
Oh.
yeah, he's got a big velocity fastball, which you could probably get to more if he was in a relief role. His body isn't built quite like Helsley's is. He's not as much of like a horse, a Mustang, a Clydesdale like Helsley is, especially in his lower half. But he has really great breaking pitches, and since he's settled into just letting his stuff eat, and he's pitched better, and the fact that he's having success doing that at Double A tells me that his stuff it will transfer. It is relatable. It will continue to have success. So that's why I probably wouldn't have done this if he hadn't had the success that he's had at Double A just yet.
Right.
But watching him pitch at Double A is impressive, and he's got it going on.
Speaking of have you got to watch Andrew Dukanich? I guess you probably have.
Yes, yeah. So I went back and watched the one start against Dunedin, and that didn't have the stat cast, so I was just watching it. And that was his first one, 3 innings, 7 strikeouts, maybe 1 or 2 hits, whatever it was. He looked dialed in. And then I went back and watched his 1 inning performance. I watched that live. I jinxed him. I was very excited to watch it, made a point to watch it, got home early, watched it. He barely got through the first.
Yeah, he struggled. Yeah.
He struggled specifically with his command. But I was telling a friend of mine that a couple, but I think that there's a weird parallel in some ways between Dukanich and Mathews. And it being that, like, Dukanich didn't have his fastball command, and he didn't trust it. But he had a couple off-speed pitches that he probably could have just thrown, and no one would have hit it. But he was working on fastball command, trying to get his velocity up, trying to find his feel. He's legit. He's legit, and it's just a matter of how he builds up and how quickly he can get there.
Now, a guy that I missed on your list, I completely overlooked him, but he sort of jumped from your second column of 25 to your first column of 25, and that is right-handed reliever Randall Clemente.
Yeah.
Now, He's been in the system 5 years. He's 23 years old. He pitched at three levels this year because he kind of got stuck in low A
Yeah,
for a while. A 4.23 ERA this year. Why is Randall Clemente your number 21 prospect?
because he's filthy. I mean, he is filthy, Brian. And this is one where it's again hypocrisy for some of the stuff I said earlier. This is all based on excitement because he's one of these guys for all of these years that you look at his Statcast data, you watch him pitch, and his command is absolutely trash. But his stuff is so filthy. And now here we are, and he's just throwing strikes and saying, "All right, go try to hit it." He's letting that filth play. And he looks like he has better control of his body. His body looks like it's filled out a little bit more. And so all of these things are kind of feeding my excitement, letting my excitement probably drive the bus a little bit, because this is a player that I've been following and I've wanted to see kind of take this step for a while and reward him for the step he's taken.
All right. Now, in my opening, I said we're going to talk about the guys the Cardinals picked up in trades. We've talked for 10 or so minutes, at least 10 minutes about the re-ranking, and we haven't mentioned a single one of these guys. I think it would be fair to say you're down on Jesus Baez. You have him ranked 31st.
Yeah.
He's on the cusp of my top 10. And I admit it's based on his reputation, it's based on his potential. But I think you're going to tell me he's probably an undisciplined, crazy young guy, and you're worried about that, huh?
Hey, that's part of it. Yeah. I went back and I probably watched maybe 120 of his at bats, 100 somewhere. I went back and I watched a lot because there's so many contrarian reports. There's so much contradiction going out there about the type of player Jesus Baez is. So I went back and watched a ton of it, Brian. I had a little time this weekend and it was really nice. And so so the gist is this: when he makes a lot of really boneheaded plays, and I know that that's kind of a terrible thing to say, but like he'll take a grounder at third with two outs, and he'll you'll have like a runner at second base, and he'll look the runner back if the runner doesn't start running to third, and then throw the ball to first. He has these weird little memory lapses, and they extend into from the field to the bases to the plate, and it's awesome to see some of the strides he's taken from a statistical standpoint. Like he's cut down on his strikeouts rather, but he's doing it in kind of a cheap way. And where he's basically just like taking half swings with two strikes to make contact, and it's not doing him any good. He's chopping balls to shortstops and second baseman and third baseman. He's not running hard all the time, and I am picking on him here because of his massive potential, and hopefully the Cardinals kind of did the same thing. Of course, you don't. I don't mean pick on him, but this is someone who, when you watch him, he needs discipline in his life. He needs
Well,
it in the
and we'll
worst.
see what Cardinals player development does with him. Maybe he'll
And
mature, maybe he won't.
that's it. So that's it. I was kind of put off by his style of play as much as I love the loud noises that come with the talent that he has.
So of these guys, and granted, you've got them all, in a block of five or six prospects, but you actually ranked Frank Elisalt as the top prospect of the guys the Cardinals picked up. Now, I saw his 10.5 K per nine, and he throws, I guess, 95. But he's like a 19th rounder, right? I mean, what's going on with Frank Elisalt?
I just like his entire rounded development. I think he's got a really good pitch mix. I think the velocity helps. It's kind of nasty stuff. It's tough for me because I've been a big Nate Dome fan for so long,
Yeah, so why Elisalt over Dome? I was really surprised to see that.
because I think when it comes down to it, Elisalt has more velocity and his stuff is probably a little bit better within its mix. Uh, at least that's currently constructed, and this says a lot for the Mets player development. They deserve a ton of credit for getting him to this point. Like they did this with him. They didn't do this for him. They didn't do it to him. They did this with him. He was a part of it. And that's not to say Nate Dome's not going to get to 95 consistently and get a better shape on his slider, which is a really great pitch. I'm not trying to undersell, or get a better feel for his changeup, which is another good pitch that just needs a better feel. But he's just not as loud as Elisalt is, or with the potential that Elisalt currently has. And something you and I have talked about, Brian, is you can't, as much as I want to say, like, if this guy puts on 10 pounds of muscle, he's going to hit 10 more home runs. Or if this guy eats chicken and rice and does 200 push-ups during COVID, he's going to become the Randy Rosarena that we know. Like, I can't I can't guarantee Nate Dome is going to get to 2 extra miles an hour on his fastball. I think he can. We've seen the Cardinals do this with Brycen Mautz and all these other, but I can't guarantee it until I see it. The truth is, Ellis Salt's stuff is just a little bit better than Dome's.
And again, we're talking about 27 versus 29, so
Yeah,
it's a rounding error. And in between the two, of course, is Mason Blaze, Jordan Walker, and I agree. He's right now he's around a 30-ish guy, and he could move up, but he might end up being another Cesar Prieto who kind of hangs around the rankings, but doesn't really ever push his way up.
I'm anxious to see with Blaze how quickly he settles into Memphis because he's playing around his family, and it just seemed like this last week in particular he was trying too hard to do too much. So we'll see.
Yeah, yep, agreed. Now, another guy that you ranked, and I know he's a dark horse, I'd say, and Ty Van Dyke, 10th rounder, senior sign, got like $10,000 to sign or something.
Yeah.
But he's a guy that the Cardinals, one of the few guys the Cardinals said, okay, this guy's ready to pitch, so you're in the rotation in Palm Beach, and not necessarily with a full refined set of offerings yet, but you like something about Ty Van Dyke, obviously, to put him in your top 35.
Yeah, he's rough around the edges, Brian, and I'm pro rough around the edges. It is so again, it's you go back, you try to find as much footage you can of his time in college. There's not a lot of it. Not even games like going down uh, uh, ESPN Plus and trying to find it's you cannot find a lot of games, so it's not easy. I know that I already put this list together in part before he had his 2 inning organizational debut, but that
Which
helped
which was exceptional, by the way.
and that reinforced the thoughts that I had and made me solidify where I put him. He's got really good command. He pitches kind of like a bulldog. He kind of throws it out there like, all right, go get it. And he's gonna be good for at least the A levels of the minor leagues. We'll see what happens eventually when he gets to Double A. But his stuff is good enough. His command is good enough. He's enough of a bulldog that he's gonna be able to fight his way through those low levels without a problem. I don't think.
A couple of other changes you made to hitters in your rankings where you dropped guys 10-ish spots. One of them I did as well, and that's Josh Cross. And I asked you to talk about him in a sec. But the other one's Ryan Mitchell. I know Ryan Mitchell, hasn't handled this transition from shortstop to outfield, or if he's going to play both or whatever it is. He hasn't had a chance to play in the pro game yet. But did you have concerns when you dropped him, or was it just other guys moving up? Because obviously his status hasn't changed in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'd say it's a combo of the two. I do think, again, you spend enough time thinking about some of the things that you're concerned about, and they can take a higher standing in your own brain. And that's kind of what happens with Brian Mitchell. Like I think about some of the things that I'm worried about. And it's not about like the way he hits the ball. It's more mechanical. It's more about body control, things like that. And then, you look and you're like, honestly, like I dropped Chase Davis a pretty far amount. And he deserves it, right?
Yeah, yeah, I'm there too. I wasn't even going to talk about Chase Hayes, but he's definitely he's out of my top 20. He's not out of yours yet, but he probably will be soon.
I have him right at 20. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong list. Oh boy, I've
Yeah,
got too many lists up here.
you have him
16.
16th, but
Yeah. So, but like that's just to say that like I think that these things are constantly evolving. None of these players are the center of the universe, so everything is kind of rotating around the organization as the center of the universe. And as other players start to play better, and I think about my concerns about Ryan Mitchell, and he's not getting a chance to show that he's mitigating those concerns, it's easy to kind of move him back. And also, I've always been the type, as you'll see with like Yairo Padilla, I've always been the type of those teenage prospects to just temper expectations a little bit, just as a second nature reflex.
yeah. And then Josh Cross, who had a tremendous first month at Palm Beach, continued to hit well there, earned a promotion, but is really struggling against left-handed pitching.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw that in Palm Beach too. And I think that was one of the reasons why I wasn't as clamoring for him to get the promotion of Palm Beach or Peoria from Palm Beach. He's not a right-handed hitter, and that's an issue. And also, he's kind of caught between first base and catcher, and I don't really know what that is. He's not a particularly good first baseman. He shows signs, and he's not a particularly great catcher either. He shows signs, so he's just an unsettled prospect with
He'd fit perfectly on the major league roster. What are you talking about?
Yes, you're right. Oh my gosh, you're right. Yeah, that's perfect.
Well,
What, Brian, what was
the one positive on Josh Cross is he's playing much better in August. So, early going, but 8 for 24. So, a nice start. Maybe he's starting to figure out Midwest League. We'll have to see. But this issue of, um, struggling as right-handed batter, is going to be something that he's going to have to deal with.
Yeah, and it's more than just a struggle. I mean, it's a level above struggle or below struggle. It's terrible.
Yeah. Well, it's below the Mendoza line. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right, and now to my list, we talked about some of the things. I was late because again, it's a couple months worth to move Daniel Ortiz up. I moved him way up my list. Mautz rebounded up my list quite a ways. Same with Braden Davis, who I did not, rank particularly aggressively early on. Ducannon's because he's starting to pitch, and some of the guys that I bumped down, we talked about Chase Davis, Cross. Luis Gastelum. Now he's a guy that has one tremendous pitch, but has not been consistent yet. He'll have good outings and then he'll have bad outings. I know you're still sold on him, but I'm waiting for him to really truly break out. He's got an ERA pushing 5 this year.
Yeah, I feel like every time I'm like, all right, he's got to figure it out. He ends up having like a 2/3 of an inning, 5 earned run adventure.
Yeah, yeah. All
Br-
right, Kyle. Is there
Brian,
anybody? Is there anybody else that you want to talk about on your list that we did not bring up? Because obviously we didn't talk about all 50 names.
well, no, Brian, like I just want to say, I look at your list and I do think you and I have some pretty similar things. I guess what I was going to ask you is, I think one area where we differ, and it's where we're trying to figure out the back of the starting pitching depth in the organization. Like I've kind of jumped off the Ian Bedell, the Jason Savacool, but I think that rightfully, again, Mason Molina, who I think we both kind of forgot, honestly, but I think that your list is stronger than mine because you've done the Savacool Bedell, and I just wanted to you walk us through that a little bit.
Well, yeah, and we're talking about guys in the 40s, so
Yeah,
they could easily get pushed off by others. But Savacool pitched extremely well at Palm Beach. I don't think anybody would deny that, and he's been credible at Peoria. Now, is the guy going to be a front of the rotation starter in the major leagues? Of course not, definitely not. But does he have potential? And I think Roberson, it's easy to forget about guys who are injured. Ian Bedell, I think when I do my final tuning, you might see Ian Bedell turn into Mason Molina just because Molina's a new guy. Bedell, he's kind of, I think he's kind of on his last legs to show that number one, can he stay healthy? And number two, can he continue to compete as a starter? Or do you think his stuff is good enough he could work out of the pen?
I think his slider is. And I don't know if he really has another thing that he can complement. Sometimes
Yeah.
his fastball command is usually really bad. So maybe if he can tweak his fastball, or maybe if he has, I know he had a AAA start over the weekend or prior to the weekend. He pitched a couple innings, and I did not get to see any of that, and I didn't look at his stat cast either. But he has a slider that's good enough. It's just that I don't know if he has anything else that's good enough.
Yeah. And then the other thing I did with my list, I slipped in 3 DSL guys at the end, a couple of infielders that are hitting particularly well. Sebastian Dos Santos and Miguel Hernandez, very interesting guys. And then Kenley Hunter, the 17-year-old outfielder who's got like a 850 or 870 OPS and 20 some steals. And these guys are guys, again, 17 years old in the Dominican Summer League that, we're going to have to wait for some time until we see them and see what they do. But again, I was a little tired too of ranking the same guys over and over that aren't really stepping up yet. But there are plenty, as we've talked about, who are doing well, and that's what makes prospect ranking so fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. Those three in particular, I'm going to keep a close eye on. Miguel Hernandez, who I think I accidentally put Rodriguez, and I think that I don't know why I did that. I'm embarrassed by it, but I'm keeping an eye on him. I've said it a long time, Brian. When you get to the low levels, the DSL level in particular, the complex level, but specifically the DSL, if the player isn't hitting for power, I tend to ignore them. But at the same time, and that's why Miguel Hernandez is on my list. But at the same time, Kenley Hunter is not hitting for power, but I'm keeping an eye on him. It seems like there's a little something more there than
Hmm.
your average non-power hitting DSL teenager.
Hmm. Hmm. Agreed. Yeah, slugging just under 400, but an on base of 430, and and some extra base popping. Like I said, a lot of stolen bases, which is very interesting as well. So guys on the Dominican Summer League roster, and Sebastian Dos Santos, .561 slugging. You know, not
Yeah.
bad in a league where, there aren't a lot of home runs.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a
Another name
middle
to keep an eye
infielder,
on.
So there you go. All right. Well, with that, we'll probably close off this episode of Wednesday with Walton and Reis. We thank you for watching and listening as always, and we will be back next time around. I guess that'll be on the 20th of August. Kyle, thank you for your insight as always.
Thank you, Brian. It was a pleasure.
All right. Until next time.